I'm Alex Felix. I'm a senior who is majoring in chemistry with a minor in creative writing.
My name is Rocio. I'm a senior and I'm from Berwyn, Illinois.
I'm Julia. I'm a freshman and I'm from South Bend, Indiana.
My name is Sean Michael Volovong. I am 20 years old. I am a current junior here at Stanford studying urban studies, and I was born and raised in Van Buren, Arkansas, and I grew up there all my life.
I grew up in the Central Valley. My parents have a ranch about 10 miles outside of town, which is like this teeny tiny little town with like 5,000 people. The nearest city is like over an hour away. So like I grew up pretty rural. We have a lot of cows, lots of chickens and stuff. I'm not a big farm person. I hate the outdoors. So I didn't really spend much time at home outside.
I lived in South Bend, Indiana, and a suburb off of that city for basically all of my life. I was born there and I was raised there.
I was actually born in Mexico and I moved to the US when I was roughly 3.
My parents immigrated from South Korea and they moved to that area because of my dad's job. My dad, he came to the US first. He started working at a gas station in South Bend.
My mother was a refugee during the Vietnam War, and she was brought over and raised in a refugee camp in Oklahoma. And then my father came for educational reasons, but that didn't work out for him.
My dad eventually got his job as a chef at a local stir-fry restaurant thing. And then he also got the job at the post office. And he did that for about 25 years, 2 jobs, which is crazy to me.
My dad has worked in construction for pretty much all of his life. He's going to be 60 next year, and he started working in construction when he was 17, so it's a long time. And my mom works as a food service worker in my elementary school.
My dad actually lost his job during the housing market crash in 2007, and so he didn't actually have a job until I was a junior in high school.
She's always worked in manufacturing her entire life, including my father. So growing up, when we had the career days, when everyone's like, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be an anesthesiologist. That was one of my best friends' answer because they make $1 million. Or I want to be a doctor and stuff. I said I wanted to work in a factory, and everyone made fun of me. And I was like, y'all don't know about my family. Don't talk to me like that.
Coming from a very humble background, it was a huge culture shock. Convinced myself that I didn't get in because of my merit, but that it was because I was just a diversity card.
Stanford was a really hard place for me to be as a Flash. I think it's really different in terms of the dominant cultures. I think socioeconomically there was a lot of luxuries and different things that I wasn't used to seeing in my community. It's predominantly Mexican, and most people share my own identities of being either first or second generation Mexican.
It was about half Hispanic and half white. But it was that's all I saw. We didn't have any other ethnicities in our town.
I grew up having friends who lived in very wealthy areas, and I grew up inside of not so wealthy areas, and I had friends across the spectrum. So coming to a place like Stanford, of course it is a bit of a culture shock for anybody who never grew up here, but it wasn't as drastic as saying somebody who's crying because they're leaving their parents. I was ready for my parents to leave. I was ready for me to start my own life. I was always that kid that I told people, where are you gonna go? After high school, I always told them I was gonna get out of here.
I definitely want to get out. To this day, I don't like going back. I like going home, but not to my town. I was desperate to get out. There's really nothing there for me. But when I got here, it wasn't that I was homesick for that place, but I was homesick for my parents, homesick for my friends.
I'm very glad for this program that I did right before I came to Stanford. It's called the Leland Scholars Program. Basically, it's a summer program for first gen or low-income kids. I think if I didn't do that program, it would have been really hard to find other people who were fly or to not feel alone in that identity. I guess before that, I was always really embarrassed of it, and I never really wanted to show my friends what my parents did or anything like that. When I came to Stanford, I learned my realization of being fly was that it's okay to be fly, and that you can really embrace what your fly identity is, because there's a lot of kids here who also identify with you as well. I've become prouder and prouder of my humble background, and I view my parents, and it's just
I'm very proud of them for everything they've done because they've had some pretty hard lives and they've made sure that my life is not hard.
So growing up, my parents never really talked about money. My mother worked like 4 jobs, so I mean it's probably that's not different from a lot of low-income families where their parents work a lot. And I had 2 jobs in high school, so working hard for something wasn't foreign to me.
And like we would hear them talking about like taxes and like paying bills at night, but they would never like bring it up. And so as a family, like we would never, my parents wouldn't make us worry about it.
We never lacked like the essentials. So I don't think I ever really noticed that I was like, what is considered, I was definitely below poverty level at some point in my life, and I don't think I ever really thought that until afterwards when I like was older and I realized like how much my family is making versus like how big my family is. The thing that shocked me more than being fly was people who aren't fly, or just who are just like not low income, because like the idea of people being able to get through Stanford without any financial aid just blew my mind.
Last year, my roommate, she's really cool, she's a senior, they had gender neutral housing because I lived in a co-op, and she used to smoke every second of the day that she could. She had a big bong and she would start at 7 a.m. and end at like when she went to bed at 12. And I asked her one day, like, how much do you pay for this stuff? Because weed isn't cheap, even if it's legal here in California. And she says, I spend about $150 every other week. And that's a lot of money for grass.
So I have a really good friend, I love her, we're very similar, but she comes from a very wealthy family in LA. She invited me to dinner with her parents 2 different times. And on those both occasions, we went to very fancy restaurants. But the second one, we went to this crazy steakhouse in Mountain View, and like I knew that they had money, but I never felt so uncomfortable in it as I did in that moment, because it was like a ridiculously fancy place, and like the cheapest thing on the menu was just what I got was like a $54 steak. You know, that was the cheapest thing, and my friend got something that didn't have it was so expensive that it didn't have the price on it, and her dad was just kind of like, okay, that's fine, you know. And so like there were 6 people there getting fed, and like we were all buying things that were above $54, and I just felt so out of place in that moment. Like there has never been a moment in my life where I have felt more out of place than in that one, especially considering that I personally felt like I had more in common with the people working there than with the people I was sitting with at dinner.
When people talk about gap years, like that was not even like a possibility. Like it was go to high school or get a job or go straight to college.
And there was another moment where I walked into my neighbor's room and there was just these packages of polo shirts, not just polo shirts, but like polo branded like clothing, and they were just all over the place, like in packages. And he was just like, yeah, my father just sent me this in a big box. And I was like, God damn it, each of these is like $70 a piece, this one's like $150, and there's 20 of them laying around. And she's like, yeah. Oh, and he had like a dry cleaning service too, like where they would pick it up and then they would like do your laundry and like just drop it off. The laundry is right there, you can walk down there. And he even paid me $20 to do his laundry once. That was really cool. On one hand, yeah, I do feel a bit of a resentment, but I think more so the feelings I have is like a fantasy feeling. Like, what if I was one of them? What if I was more well off than I am now? And what could I be doing in the world? I'd drop out of Stanford maybe, I would just like chill out, I don't know, I'd be one of those people on TV like in Gossip Girl where they don't really care about wealth.
I do get uncomfortable around people with a lot of money, not because they have a lot of money, but I think one of my insecurities is them like looking at me at a certain way when they know that I'm low income.
I do respect how humble people here are. I've never really met someone here at Stanford that is very arrogantly financial.
Having that realization of that people are learning all these different languages, and like so many people have so many like things on their resume, but a lot of that is because of things that they had available to them that a lot of students just don't.
You are at an inherent disadvantage if you come from a low-income community when it comes to education.
And there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to make this place a place that's more accessible not only for students but also workers and other people who make up our community that people at Stanford, including administrators, don't usually think about.
Stanford gives a lot of money to resident students who need it, and I'm very grateful for it. But sometimes that's not the only thing you need.
And so I think like just trying to find ways to finesse Stanford on your own is very important. Something that's very unique and also like very good about being fly is that you are so wary of money and so like cautious of spending money.
Here at Stanford, I've had this weird relationship with money where I would buy a $300 set of pajamas and not care about it. I have a very transactional relationship with money that I think a lot of flip students don't have. I'm assuming because they're always thinking about it, they might be counting their pennies or money in a different way than I would. So I don't think really twice about spending money at Stanford.
So like I have a very difficult relationship with money. I was the oldest one who, when my parents were going through all of their financial hardship, so I was the only one who got to see it. My siblings and I have a very different view of money, and so like I save a lot. Well, okay, all right, I'm gonna backtrack. I eat out a lot, but that's about it.
People tend to be willing to like go to expensive places and like eat out often, and that's something that I like growing up, my family would eat out once a week on Sundays, and that was like our treat. Other than that, we had food at home, and that's just what we did.
I do spend money, and I do spend more money than I should probably, and I do have nicer things now than I did before. But also I have multiple jobs. But like my view of money is that like every single dollar hurts me to make. You know, it's like a lot of effort to make it.
My dad, he worked as a chef at a local restaurant and then also at the post office. Because of that, he had to get like 3 shoulder surgeries because he was like lifting heavy boxes at the post office. Every dollar that I spend is what his shoulder or like what his like strength had to go through in order for me to have that money.
So I don't buy like obscene things, you know. I buy $50 boots that are on sale for $100.
I would just spend money like a rich person would, essentially.
I'm not rich. I'm not probably never going to be rich. Like I don't think you should ever throw your money around. I think that money, you never know what's gonna happen, and if you don't, you know, if you're not responsible with your money, because that's what happened with my family, right? My dad lost his job and he didn't expect it because the housing market crashed, and like he didn't know that it was coming, and things were really hard for a really long time, and so like I never know if that's gonna happen to me.
If I was the same way maybe after college and I was spending $300 and I was on a pair of pajamas and I was only making about $65,000 a year, yeah, I would feel a little bit more guilty. In college, this is the only time in my entire life where I can spend money freely without any repercussions. I don't have to think about mortgages. I don't have to think about rent. I don't have to think about all these other things. And that's also privilege because I'm on a scholarship.
I think right now is actually my time to save. And so you know, when I'm in grad school, I'm gonna be making trash money, but because like I want to do a lot of things in the future. I think buying things is very transient. I want to travel, I want to see the world, I want to do a lot of things. And so for now, I'm gonna pause on spending all that money. Long-term goal in the future, I want to rule the world. How I'm gonna do that is yet to be seen. Like not actually rule the world, but I'd like to be in charge of something, biotech, pharmaceutical company, the world. Something, I don't know, but I guess in the shorter long term, I want to go to grad school, I want to get my PhD in chemistry, I want to do good in the world.
I want to graduate from Stanford. So I'm studying urban planning right now, so I would love to get a master's in urban planning, hopefully down in SoCal, maybe UCLA or Irvine. I'm now a California resident, so like I can pay that in-state tuition. And then I want to work on the 2028 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles. I would love to be a part of that organization and helping out the urban planning part of it, because historically the Olympics in other countries have not been as successful in the post side of it. And then by the time I'm 30, I would like to have twins and have a house in Santa Monica.
I used to want to be a doctor for a long time, and I kept trying to convince myself Like, obviously the financial stability is there, but I kept trying to convince myself, that's my purpose in life. Like, I want to go out and heal people, and help people. But then I was like, wait, like, literally any career helps someone. Like, you can, as long as, like, you can use any career to help a person. Although I haven't, like, completely ruled out anything yet, like, I think a lot of the times I'm like, oh, I potentially am interested in this and I want to go into this field, but then I'm like, but is it, like, financially stable, or is it, like, does it even have job prospects? I guess almost in a way it's kind of holding me back from what I'm truly interested in. I would definitely want to do animation, but oh man, but I have no clue. Like, I still need to, like, delve into that more and see if I'm truly interested in that. And, like, I don't want to rule that out either, but yeah, or a mermaid.
My sisters are very successful now. Like, some of them are, like, VPs of their companies, and now I am. It's not that I have a pressure to match them. I just now have to think about, I'm at Stanford, and my sisters didn't go to places like Stanford. They went to, like, state schools. And so what makes my experience different here now to be even more?
The big thing that I want to do, I know that I want to move back home to Chicago and actually move back in with my parents. And I know that's really uncommon, but I think so my dad's going to be retiring next year, and I think I really want to be there for my family as they're going through that transition and figuring out what that's going to look like and what that's going to mean for them and where they're living in the long term. Because it just makes more sense in my mind to be there for the people that have supported me, and also just if financially it becomes a need for me to be able to contribute to them, I'd rather give my money to them than to a different landlord, knowing that I have my home there. Chicago is one of the most segregated cities in the country on several measures, and I always saw that as a problem, and that's actually one of the reasons why I was actually initially interested in being an urban studies major.
But now, being an urban studies major, it's made me think about a lot more about race, ethnicity, and one topic in particular is upward mobility. Now my tenure plan is screwed up, but I've been thinking about, like, getting a PhD and in geography and studying geographic upward mobility and social mobility, and understanding what makes people, besides a one in a lifetime chance of getting a scholarship to Stanford, what makes a low income person, how do they get to where I am now, essentially.
And I think that's definitely influenced my desire to want to work at a nonprofit or work in government or do something of that sort after graduation. That's still a little hazy, and I don't know exactly where that's going to lead, but I feel like I have an obligation, given the opportunities that I've had at my disposal, to make sure that I do something that benefits my community back home.
I don't necessarily want to work in, like, the social sector. There's a huge pressure on low-income students to think about paying it forward and working in, like, nonprofits and stuff like that. But I've been in the nonprofit world, and it's not sustainable. It's not good for my mental health to be in there, and I want to do something more, like, I don't know. I just like research. Research is fun.
I started, like, being more interested in, like, social work. Then my parents, not really my parents, but, like, just thinking of my parents and how much I want to give back to them, I was like, that's not the most financially stable job.
And I do want to pay it forward. I do want, whatever I do, I want to increase visibility of people of color, of Fly students. The first thing I have to do to be able to help anybody else is, like, I have to help myself, and I have to get myself into a place of, like, where I have at least some kind of power so that I can help other people like me. Because right now I can tell you, like, oh yeah, you can do whatever you want, you know, but, like, if I'm not actually there yet, like, I can't give someone to look up to, because, like, I have no one to look up to right now. I want to be able to help someone else how to navigate, you know, navigate through college, navigate through grad school, like, all of these things that I had to do. I want to make it easier for someone else. So yeah, I don't exactly know how I'm going to do that. I wish, because I don't actually know what I'm doing with my own life yet, but I do, my ultimate goal is to make someone's life easier, I guess. And if it's just one person, that's great, and if it's more people, that's awesome.